Hey there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, and today I'm going to do a little coloring tutorial for you using Inktense colored pencils. They're water soluble and they're a lot of fun, and in my opinion they're the best watercolor pencils on the market, and they cost about the same as any Artist Quality watercolor pencil. So we're going to color this image today. I have stamped it on just plain watercolor paper with Stampin' Up! Basic black ink, and when you stamp this, I will give you a tip when you're working with a detailed image, is to lay the stamp down, ink it up, and then press your paper on top and rub it over it. I did get a little smudge there, but this is just for the tutorial, and I think you guys can forgive me that little digression. I don't know, whatever. You can forgive me, can't you? So I've got 7 pencils here that we're going to use today. I've got Sherbet Lemon, which is kind of like a really kind of acid yellow color. I've got Baked Earth, Vivid Green, which is like an emerald, Neutral Gray, Crimson, Dark Aquamarine, which is like a turquoise, and Carmine Pink. So I'm just going to set my pencils there, and the first thing I'm going to do is work on the face and the body of the mice, because, well, actually, let's do the face first, and I'm simply going to do, because once you dry this and I go over it with the water and it dries, it's going to be permanent, so I can paint over that. So if I get this stuff done and out of the way, it's not going to move on me when I go ahead and color over it with other colors. So I'm just very lightly, I'm actually doing this a little bit darker than I normally would because I want to make sure you can see it. I'm just adding in this Baked Earth. It's going to be, I'm just using a light touch, so by the time I put the water on it, it's going to be quite a bit lighter. I'm doing all the paws and the faces, and you don't have to be too careful with it because you can use your wet paintbrush to push the paint around a bit. I sharpened my pencils. You can see how blunt that is. I just use a knife because I just want to take the wood off and leave my pigment, because, you know, the pencils are a little pricey, so you want to make sure you're getting as much as you can. If I do need it for a detail, which I usually just push my paint around with my brush, so that's how I do my detail. I can always sharpen it if I need to, but I usually don't. And I also want to just add a little bit of blush to the cheeks and to the ears, and maybe the nose a little bit. And I want to do that before I liquefy the color. It'll be a lot easier to blend if I do it all at once. Alright, now I'm just going to use plain water on a brush, and I like to give it a little squeeze to take out any extra water. And I'm just going to go in and liquefy the colors. This works much nicer on watercolor paper, because watercolor paper, this is just cold press, plain, usually what you're going to find for watercolor paper. This is cold press, so it has a bit of a tooth. It does make it a little difficult to stamp on. If you're having trouble, use clear stamps. They squish a little bit better. But I'm using watercolor paper because the tooth of the paper actually pulls a little bit more color off of the pencil, and it makes it paint a lot nicer. If you get a little bit of pigment built up and you're going to change to a slightly different color, you can rinse your brush. I'm trying to keep this quickly. I hope I'm not talking too fast. I'm trying to do this quickly so you get a good idea, but you don't have to listen to me gab or watch me paint for half an hour. Try to get it done fairly quickly. Alright, sometimes I forget a spot and have to go back in. Okay, all the time. It happens every time. What am I talking about? Alright. Alright, and once that dries, it's going to really be locked into the paper. That's a special quality that the Inktense pencils have. I also want to go in and do the jelly beans because I'm going to want to put some color over that vase. So when I'm working with something that's really bright, what I want to do, I'm just going to, because I want to have that lovely shading, kind of like what you get with Copic markers. So I'm just going to go around the outsides of some of these beans, kind of where they have the shadow naturally, and I am going to go in and add some of my really dark color. Just like where you'd put your darkest color if you were using Copic markers. But the great thing about this is you don't need a bunch of shades. All you need is one shade and you'll be able to blend it out, which is really great. You could use whatever colors you want. When people ask me, I've been asked a lot about these pencils, and people ask whether they should get the big set or if like a small set will suffice, or, you know, do you need all the colors? Are these worth the money? Can I just get some cheaper pencils? And I really like these. And most Artist Quality pencils are going to run you the same amount, but it really breaks down to about $1 a pencil when you buy the really big sets, if you get a good deal on sale. I think I got mine at Dick Blick online, and they were a good deal. And you can always get a smaller set at like the big box craft stores. They carry them, and then you can use a coupon. They charge a lot more for them, but with a coupon it's not so bad. Now to liquefy these, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll do all my yellows first. I'm just going to go around the edge. And once I've got that liquefied, I might even just wipe off the brush on a rag or my finger or something, my jeans or something, and just kind of pull it into the middle. So I do have a little bit of a lighter color in there. It'll be more noticeable when I go to the darker color. I'll go over to this green here. And I could even rinse my brush and then just kind of add a little water to the center just to let it blend in, but still keep the darker color on the outside. I was just wiping my brush there in between colors. Going to the blue, I'm dabbing my brush on a towel before I touch it to the paper, or I'm squeezing it with my fingers just to get the extra color off. You can see how vivid these are. Alright, I know I'm going to jinx myself, but I cannot believe the phone hasn't rung or the water pump hasn't turned on or my furnace hasn't turned off. This is just, I know I'm jinxing myself. It's going to turn on any minute. Oh, got one more little blue one back there. Alright, we're going to go in and do the reds. Now, I'm kind of standing back. I don't want to get my head in the shot, so my coloring is not going to be as fine as it would be if I was sitting at my desk and had my face right in there while I was coloring, but you're going to get the idea. It's really fun to experiment with these pencils. They last a long time. Any sort of watercolor pencil or regular color pencils will last a long time. So don't be afraid to experiment with them. Don't be stingy. Just go ahead and play with them and try, because it's how you're going to get better. And a pencil lasts probably 100 times more than a marker. So, you know, you really get a lot for your money. And they're a lot cheaper than markers. Like a set of 72 of these would probably run you about $100, whereas a set of 72 Copics would be, you know, hundreds of dollars. It would be like probably $400. So I'm just adding some of this charcoal gray to the outsides of my mice and kind of anywhere I think that there might be a little bit of a shadow. I'm just going very loosey-goosey. You can see your brush is going to do most of the work for you. These are very forgiving. It's also a lot easier, I think, to color with watercolor pencils than it is with the markers because they're just so forgiving. I'm using a slightly larger brush, and I'm actually going to add a little water to the center before I even touch the pigment. And then I can have a nice area to blend into when I pick up the color. Because these are Inktense pencils, and they are going to, they're not going to be resoluble very well. So once they dry, they're going to be nice and permanent, almost like ink. So I want to make sure that I've got a little area to blend in before I touch the color. So there, I've got my little area to blend. Now I can pull out to the color and bring it right into the middle. Easy as pie. And if I got too much color, I'll just wipe my brush, and that will remove the color that's on there, and I can just go in and kind of smoosh out the rest. Oops, I want to add a little color to the little water to the body there first. There isn't too much area that's not dark on this middle guy. I love the house mouse stamps for coloring because they're really fun and cute, and they're so great for kids' cards. Kids love that cute stuff. Alright, so I just want to let that dry for a second, and love to answer some questions you might have, but since, you know, I can't hear you, I'll just go ahead and zoom in a little bit so you can see what we've got so far. Oh good, that's coming in focus. And now for the vase, I want to add some color like I did here. I'm going to leave the white highlight alone, but I'm going to add some color around there. And since the colors are permanent once they dry, which they're pretty well dry, I should have probably colored that mouse first. I'm just going to go in really lightly and add some of this same blue that I used on my jelly beans. Now, a tip that I can give you whenever you're using any color medium is to use as few colors as possible, because then you'll get color harmony as you mix and blend. Now, you have to use a lot more when you're using markers because, you know, they're only going to blend so much. You do have to have some gradations of color. But for pencils, since you can blend them just like paint, you can use just, you know, 5, 6, 7 shades, and it will really do the trick. So I'm just going to go in with my flat brush. I think pretty much everything's dry enough that I can do that, and I'm just going to liquefy. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to drag it right over everything that I've already painted except for the highlights. Now if I messed up and I painted over the highlights, I could always go in with a colored pencil that was white and put them back in there, because the white colored pencils are very opaque. Not the watercolor pencils. I'm talking about like a standard, you know, Prismacolor or something like that. And then if I want to add a little shadow, which I think I do, actually I want to put a little of this turquoise because I would have some of the color of that vase reflecting out. And then I would go in with my gray, since I've already used that color. I typically don't use gray or black for shadows, but since I've already been using that in this picture, then that's okay. I'm not going to get a weird shadow. And then I'm just going to liquefy it out. And this is going to be kind of awkward. I'm actually going to turn it around. Sorry about that. But in order for me to, I like to kind of pull the paint towards me, and that will just be a little bit easier for me to do that. Clean off my brush and just kind of feather it out. And as for that little smudge there, I don't know, I might just draw a jelly bean there or something, or I might just trim it out. Who knows? But there you have it. Very simple coloring with Inktense pencils. This is what they look like in case you're at the store and you don't know. I want to thank you so much for watching. Again, I want to wish everyone a happy Easter, and until next time, happy crafting.